One of the things that clients often ask us when involved in a multi-vehicle crash is, what do I do? First, and the most important thing to do is to make sure you're safe and to make sure that you get the appropriate medical attention and emergency medical attention that you may need. If you're involved in a crash involving multiple trucks or multiple commercial motor vehicles, there's a couple things you should do to help protect yourself and that'll help your attorney gather information later on. The first thing you should do is to document the scene. That includes taking pictures of your vehicle in relation to the other vehicles on the roadway, and also to try to get information on all of the vehicles involved. And of course, only do this if it's safe to do so and the scene's safe for you to take those types of pictures. Another very important thing to do is to gather any witness information that may be available. Oftentimes, witnesses may come up to you at the scene and talk to you and tell you what they saw, but they may not be willing to stick around for an hour or so to talk to police. So if you can get any information from any witnesses immediately, that's always helpful later on to track them down to get that type of communication. In particular, an important thing to note are the DOT numbers or the motor carrier numbers that are on the side of most tractor trailers. That's very important in allowing your attorney to investigate the companies involved and allows your attorney to get the information necessary to start proving your case and determining what happened and who was involved. In a multi-truck crash, it's often difficult to prove liability because it's often a series of events that ends up causing the collision. In one case that I'm thinking of in particular that we handled recently, there was a pileup on an interstate in Missouri that was caused by fog. And there were over 30 vehicles involved in that collision. And there were a number of distinct failures by the motor carriers and truck drivers that each contributed to the crash happening. There was a number of trucks who were not in compliance. They didn't have their brakes were not working properly. And other trucks weren't following the appropriate following distance considering the fog. And all of those things compounded in that particular crash to cause a horrific crash that ended up killing at least one person and injuring several others. Fortunately, we were able to get involved early on and we investigated, and we had our accident reconstructionist up there early on to document the scene and determine what happened. But it was only because we were able to get involved early on and to get that crucial information that we were able to develop the information and discover the information that allowed us to see the particular failures of each vehicle involved. And in the end, we're able to make a recovery for our client to compensate him for his injuries. In a multi-truck crash, oftentimes we will use a particular expert called an accident reconstructionist. And this is an engineer who has been trained in how to investigate crashes. And it's a particular type of expertise and training that they go through. And accident reconstructionists are, one of the first things they do is when they get to the scene of the crash, they'll look at the roadway and they'll take measurements of the roadway and the type of road surface it is. And that enables them to start developing a model based on engineering principles and physics of how the vehicles moved. And the accident reconstructionist will also go and photograph and document each vehicle involved in the crash. And they'll take pictures all around. Sometimes they'll even do laser scans of the vehicles. And they use all this information, they put it together, and they can actually create a 3D video reconstruction of how each vehicle reacted in the crash and to determine who was at fault, who reacted appropriately, and who didn't react appropriately. And in the end, information like that, when it's available, can be very helpful in determining what companies or truck drivers were responsible in a multi-truck crash. If you're involved in a crash with multiple trucks or multiple commercial motor vehicles, one thing to keep in mind is that because there's so many parties involved and so many different insurance companies involved, it can be very complicated to prove liability and to prove who's financially responsible for your injuries and damages. One way that an experienced attorney like Michael and I at the Callahan Law Firm can come in and help is that we are very familiar with the ways that trucking companies and insurance companies structure themselves to try to shield themselves from liability. And one of the things that we do in every case we're involved in that involves multiple trucks or multiple commercial motor vehicles is that we get information on both the insurance programs and the corporate structures of all of the companies involved to make sure that we can get all of the money and all the insurance money that would be available to you to make sure that the people responsible for the crash will be held accountable and that you'll get the full measure of damages that you're entitled to. If you're involved in a serious crash involving a commercial motor vehicle or several commercial motor vehicles, give us a call at the Callahan Law Firm to see how we can help. Our number is 713-224-9000. You can also reach us on our website, thecallahanlawfirm.com. Reach out and see what we can do to help you make sure that you get all the money you're entitled to from the people who caused the crash.